How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Keeping the Faith podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Fuentes. This is my co-host, Edgar Martinez.
What's up, guys? Well, we're back. A few weeks of no videos, but we're back now. Just as a kind of an update, I wasn't actually gonna bring this up, but just in case for any of our listeners that might have been like, hey, what's happening with the episode? So I was sick. I got COVID, so that's the reason why I wasn't able to make some videos. Also, Jonah will not be joining us today. He is still studying. He's studying. So right now he's 100% focused on that, in time and in mind as well. So I guess that's the reason why he's not joining us today, and I believe he will not be joining us in the near future. So but once he's back, we'll be joyful to have him back. But for now, we're just gonna pray for him, that everything that he's doing goes according to what God has in store for him. So that's that little short update that I technically wasn't gonna bring up, but I guess why not, right? Just to kill a few minutes more, right? We have an interesting topic for today, and before I go into the topic, I do want to remind anyone listening that we are available in different other platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcast, and YouTube. We do upload these podcast episodes into YouTube. Hopefully in the future we'll be able to make more like a video approach, where we'll be able to appear on camera and then also have these kind of audio, right? So that's in the future, still in the future, still, I don't know how close to that we're yet, because of course we got to build a few things. So we have the space, we have the equipment, so that we can so that we're able to do something like that. But for now, we're going to continue doing this, and hopefully it's something that you like, and it's something that interests you, right? Of course, we've been talking, back and forth with Jonah, about the format of our podcast. I don't know if the word, change would actually be the correct word, or more like maybe evolving, or kind of not even evolving. I don't know, but the way we want to do these kind of podcasts, we our plan was always, do something where it's a talk back and forth. It's more like a conversation that you would have, with your friends, with your families. So it was more oriented to that, and so hopefully we can start getting to that once Jonah comes back. But for now, we're still gonna kind of stick to this format that we currently have. So yeah. And essentially the topic for today, it's called, "Isn't Christianity Intolerant?" And I think it's something that I wanted to bring up. I know it's not a topic that it's not raised or anything like that. But I mean, in this society that we currently have, with all this problems that we currently have, from COVID to the Black Lives Matter movement, then some other movements that have gone through history, and then now we have different types of religions, different types of ideologies. So we have all these type of ways of thinking, and so it comes to some point where we're like, well, should we be tolerant of all these, or maybe it's even thinking, I think this group is not tolerant because they're doing this and that. And so I think it's something to discuss, something to look into. What does that mean? Being intolerant or being tolerant. What does that word mean? I think sometimes we might use terms and we don't really know, or we don't have a real definition over them, and then we could misuse them, right? So yeah, and that's something to look into, of course. And yeah, and so unless we're talking about language development, it's a good idea, as I said, to understand words before we use them, especially when they may be emotional charged. One commonly used and abused word, as I was saying, and it's to describe, and I'm going to talk specifically of Christians, it's the word intolerant. Of course, some prickly, pugnacious persons call themselves Christians, but deny this claim by their lives, so they deny they're Christians by how they're living. True Christianity shouldn't be equated by abuses committed in Christ's name. So that's not how we should be Christianity. Think of Mother Teresa, not the Inquisition. Without compromising their convictions, all Christians should, as much as possible, live at peace with everyone. And we can see that in Romans 12:18. So, essentially what we want to get at right now is that not because you saw the Inquisitions, you saw, a lot of things that have been done in the name of Christianity or in the name of God, of the Christian God, atrocities that have happened, not because those things happen or those specific people were doing those. That means that that's the foundation upon what Christianity was founded on. Because if you actually read the Bible, you will not see such a thing. You will not see such of condone of slavery or these type of like, for example, the Inquisition, these type of fights of war made in the name of Christianity. So Christ didn't teach that. God doesn't teach that doesn't teach that in the Bible. So we cannot say just because these people did that means, Christianity is that. So we gotta look. We have to look into that by a case by case scenario. And today, people assume tolerance means accepting all views as true. And because genuine Christians don't do this, they are charged with being intolerant. So, and you've heard this, like if somebody comes in and says, well, you have to support, you have to be, you have to agree with, for example, the gay community, or you have to agree with Black Lives Matter, or you have to agree with blah, blah, blah other movement, right? And then if you say, well, you know what, I don't agree with their ideology, I don't agree with what they're saying, then now you're charged with being intolerant because they not tell you, well, you don't accept them, and because you have these views, therefore you are intolerant. And I don't think that's necessarily the point. But let's go on. So there's 4 essential points that I want to make today. And so the first thing that I do want to mention, and it's that whenever you hear Christians criticized and as intolerant, first I would say that ask, what do you mean by intolerance? I think that's a great way of I was going to say of winning conversations, but it's not in the sense of, I'm going to win a certain argument or something like that. It's when I say winning conversations, it's more like in the sense of, well, having a genuine conversation with someone, really understand why they're saying things, why they're asking certain things, the real why of why they're maybe having certain worldview or essentially certain view, So it's a great way of starting conversation, making questions, and And also, I mean, this is important. Asking questions, wanting to know the truth, not just asking questions and trying to see for certain illogical, arguments or something like that, or certain things like that. And so that's not the point, when we're going to make a question, it's because we're actually looking for truth in that question, and it's as far as the question that you're making, you want to really know, certain aspect of this person. So, it's true that tolerance doesn't mean accepting all beliefs. So that's one thing. So being tolerant does not mean accepting all beliefs. The good and the goofy are legitimate, After all, one who disagrees with Christians doesn't accept Christianity. He thinks Christians are wrong. Historically, tolerance has meant putting up with what you find disagreeable or false. You put up with strangers on a plane who snore or slurp their coffee. Similarly, you put up with another person's beliefs without criminalizing criminalizing him. So I mean, I'm able to have a conversation with, say for example, with an atheist. I'm more than happy to do so. If there's any any opportunity that I have. I don't hate that, I don't hate that they don't love God. I don't hate that person itself if they have certain way of viewing life, It doesn't mean I'm not tolerant of him, but I will point out whenever, he makes an argument, and I will ask, why do you believe that? Why are you stating this? What is your evidence? Just as how that person would ask me, and I think we can, I guess that it's the correct word, but or saying we can disagree to disagree, I think at certain point it's correct, or it's good actually to have these kind of conversations with people that have different worldviews, different ways of looking at life, different points in their conversation, because essentially we're able to learn from all these points, right? And then there's another point here. Tolerance differentiates between beliefs and persons. Sorry about that. While disagreeing with certain beliefs, we can show respect to persons holding those beliefs, since all humans are made in God's image and inherently deserve respect. Furthermore, Christianity's truth does not imply that non-Christians are 100% wrong. Christians can disagree with non-Christians about, say, certain ethical truth and scientific findings. All truth is God's truth. Truth is more basic than tolerance, since tolerance itself presupposed beliefs in truth. So as we were talking here, I mean, essentially we can as I was saying even before, we can check on somebody else's belief system, and not because maybe they're non-Christian, it means that, well, everything they're spitting out from their mouths, it's 100% wrong. No, I mean, essentially I've heard this type of saying, all worldviews or all religions have a truth, I mean, I don't know that that's 100% truth, essentially even that saying, but I mean, if we grab each religion, I'm sure they're gonna have certain truth in each religion. They believe in certain things that not just because of maybe the whole worldview itself may not hold up to the evidence or to the whole belief system, but not because that's the case, it means that the whole thing it's false. I think there's certain good things from, many religions that we can grab. Say for example, I believe it's the Kalam argument came from a Muslim scientist, I believe. I'm not completely sure, but that's somebody from a different religion, and are we going to say, well, he's a Muslim, therefore that's incorrect or that's just false? No, that's not being a logical person, so I think that's something to always keep in mind, And then tolerance operates at different levels. What can be tolerated in one area may not be tolerated in another. I'll tolerate certain behaviors in other children that I won't tolerate on my own. Christians shouldn't tolerate adultery within the church, ecclesiastical intolerance, right? But this doesn't mean we seek to have the adulterer imprisoned or like a legal intolerance, right? So I guess we could also have different levels of being tolerant, right? So we're not going to be the same for certain aspects than for others, as I just pointed out 2 examples, right? And then condemning arrogance. Christianity emphasizes grace and humility. Some Christians think they're superior to non-Christians, but this violates the spirit of the gospel. We gratefully receive God's gift of salvation, being like beggars telling other beggars where to find bread. Unlike the manager of some exclusive country club, God lovingly invites everyone to participate in his family, and not at the expense of truth. So, essentially, I don't think, being a Christian means that you're perfect. It doesn't mean that being a Christian means that you're just going to go out there, grabbing your Bible and bashing people. That's not the correct way. I think, as I mentioned before, we have to be, and how it says here in the text, we have to have grace and humility, just like God had that same grace and was humble enough to die on the cross for us, and so we have to have that same characteristic. Now, that's something that it's in the Bible, and that's something we hold up to, something that we're called to be, we're called to be ambassadors in this earth. So it's something to also look into, and that, as I said, not just because we're Christians, we're just going to be, spitting fire to anyone without actually acknowledging that person's, worldview. And so that's why I think it's important to make questions, and it's important to have a meaningful conversation with those people. And I mean, essentially, the topic, it's being, whenever we're called to, whenever we're charged as being intolerant, that it's not always the case, and it's actually not the case as a born again Christian. We can, and actually we are, called to accept anyone, to accept any kind of worldview. In the sense that I might set that incorrectly, so I'm gonna kind of backtrack a little bit. We are to accept the gay person. We are to accept the adulterer. We are to accept every single person that has problems with sin, because essentially we are also persons. Even though we're Christians, we're born again Christians, we're still fighting with sin, right? So we're not perfect, even if we're born again. So we're still fighting with sin. And so how are we to say to that person, I hate you, or I condemn you, and I don't like you? We're not to do that. But of course, we're not going to accept their lifestyle. We don't agree with their lifestyle, because on our own self, as born again Christians, we don't agree with the sin that might still haunt us. We don't agree with that, and I mean, we shouldn't agree with it. If we do, then I think we got a problem. And we may have to examine ourselves. But whenever we as Christians do fall into sin, I think that our first reaction should be of shame, towards doing that, and then our second reaction should be, getting back on our feet and going back to Christ, going back to God. God, help us. I mean, help me. I'm sorry for what I did, but if we're on our own, not, or essentially we don't accept, that kind of lifestyle, but that doesn't mean we're intolerant towards essentially towards me, but in that example, we're not intolerant of that person, we're intolerant of their lifestyle. Of course we don't agree because the Bible says it, right? But we accept that person because that is a fallen person just like I am. And so that's one thing that a lot of people say, you don't agree with, for example, you don't agree with gay marriage. Well, I actually don't, but that doesn't mean I hate, the gay community, for example. So I don't hate them, I don't like their lifestyle. I don't agree with their lifestyle. And the Bible says that's an incorrect lifestyle. But I love every single one of our gay friends, They are also, human beings that need God, whether they acknowledge the fact or not. They do need God, just as I do need God, So that's kind of like the topic that I wanted to bring. Of course, it's not as easy as when Jonah is here, because he has really good insights to each of the topics, so he makes me think a little bit more. But I hope I make myself clear, and if I didn't, just make sure to put your questions here in the bottom, and I'll be happy to engage in any of the questions. If you've seen, there's been people putting either their own arguments. And as I said, if you do put an argument, well, our first reaction will be as in, well, how do you defend your own argument? If you're making the argument, you have the burden of proof. So that's one of the things that's the reason why you might see questions from arguments or from questions, So I'll be sure to ask a question. Either me or Jonah will be sure to ask a question if we might not either understand the point or just to get a little bit of insight as I keep mentioning, So that was today's episode. I hope you like the episode, and just keep on checking our Facebook page. As we mentioned, we put out Bible verses each day. We might be missing a few days now where we have to create them and then publish them in Facebook, so maybe that's the reason why you haven't seen a few days of Bible verses. But hopefully we'll continue to put up more in the next few days. Just one thing, just pray for this ministry that we're trying to do. It hasn't been easy. If it's either health, it's some other things that we have to do. I don't know for anyone that didn't know, but Jonah is also our youth pastor, so he also has to has quite some work in that area, in that ministry. So it was even really cool that and God willing, that he let Jonah be in the podcast for quite some time, so up to I guess 40-ish episodes or so, or 30-ish episodes. So that was cool, but right now, well, he's doing his own thing right now. But as I said, he'll be back, and we'll we'll continue doing some amazing episodes, and pray for the world. Pray for all those that are, either seeking for God, or maybe are having some questions about whether God exists or not. So just pray for all those people, and pray for what's going on right now in Israel. There's a lot of people dying, whether it's one side or the other, but there's a lot of people right now that it's suffering, and I mean it's really bad times, with COVID and then all this. So just pray for these people, and hopefully that all will be a bit better. And yeah, well, that's pretty much it. I don't want to keep on talking without saying anything. So I hope you have a great day. And we'll catch you in the next episode. So have a great day. God bless you, and keeping the faith.